Today, we're diving deep into the world of alchemy to explore a truly fascinating figure, the spirit Mercurius. Now, forget everything you think you know about turning lead into gold. As the great psychologist Carl Jung discovered, this ancient, elusive spirit is actually a powerful map of the human mind, a portrait of the deepest, most contradictory parts of our own unconscious. So, here's our game plan. We'll start with a strange little fairy tale that holds the key. Then we'll get into the wild, contradictory nature of Mercurius. We'll connect him to the idea of the psychological self, see how he acts as a shadow to our conscious ideals, and finally, ask what this ancient spirit really means for us today. All right, so to really get a handle on this complex figure, we're not going to start with some dense, dusty alchemical text. No, we're going to start exactly where Jung did, with a simple fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm. Believe it or not, this little story holds the key to the entire mystery. But first, to understand Mercurius, you have to meet his ancestor, the Greek god Hermes. Just look at how this ancient papyrus describes him: ruler of the world, dweller in the heart, prophet to mortals. This isn't just some minor messenger god. This is a world-shaping force, and it's this profound, powerful legacy that Mercurius inherits. Okay, so our story begins. Picture this: a poor woodcutter's son, so poor he has to go to work in this huge ancient forest. One day, he's taking his lunch break and he just starts wandering, deeper and deeper into the woods, further than he's ever gone before. He finally stops in front of this absolutely massive oak tree, and as he's standing there, he hears something. A muffled voice coming not from the branches, but from the ground, right there among the roots, pleading, "Let me out, let me out." So he starts digging around in the dirt and uncovers a glass bottle, sealed up tight. The voice is coming from inside. He thinks for a second, then pulls out the stopper, and whoosh! A spirit just explodes out of it, shooting up and up until it's half as tall as the gigantic oak tree itself. And this spirit's voice just booms out, "I am the great and mighty spirit Mercurius, and for releasing me, I must strangle you." Talk about a thank you, right? It's this classic, terrifying twist you get from a trickster spirit. But the boy, he's quick. He doesn't panic. He plays on the spirit's ego. He basically says, "No way, you? A spirit that huge? You could never have fit in that tiny bottle. I just don't believe it." Well, to prove him wrong, Mercurius shrinks himself back down, funnels right into the bottle, and the boy slams the stopper back in. Gotcha. So now, the tables have turned. The spirit is humbled, begging to be let out, promising a real reward this time. The boy agrees, and Mercurius gives him this small piece of cloth. One end heals any wound, the other turns any metal into pure silver. And just like that, the boy's life is transformed. He goes on to become a famous doctor. Okay, so let's break this down, because for Jung, this is way more than just a kid's story. It's a map. The dark forest, that's the unconscious mind. That giant oak at the center is the self, the total core of our personality. The roots digging into the ground, that's our connection to our body, our instincts. And Mercurius, the spirit trapped in those roots, well, he's the engine of our own growth, that powerful drive to become whole that's just waiting to be discovered. So who is this spirit that first threatens to kill you and then gives you the gift of a lifetime? Well, the single most important thing to understand about Mercurius is that he is a walking, talking paradox. He is the ultimate union of opposites, containing the most extreme contradictions you can possibly imagine. Let's start with the absolute basics: water and fire. Can't get more opposite than that. The alchemists call him aqua vitae, the water of life. But in the same breath, they'd call him a universal, scintillating fire, the very light of nature itself. But also, sometimes, hellfire. He's both. And this paradox goes way deeper, right into morality. On one hand, he's the salvator, the savior, the healer, just like in the fairy tale. They even called him a second Adam, a kind of earthly mirror to Christ. But he's also the poison-dripping dragon, the deceitful trickster, and even described as the literal dwelling place of the devil. How can he be both savior and demon? You know, maybe the best way to get it is to let the spirit speak for itself. This is from a 15th century text, and it just perfectly captures it all. He is male and female, heaven and earth, the highest and the lowest. And then that final mind-bending line, "I am known and yet do not exist at all." That's Mercurius. So one in the world is the psychological point of a symbol that unites every possible opposite. For Jung, the answer was crystal clear. This points directly to one of his most important ideas, the concept of the self. Now, we've got to be really precise here. The self with a capital S is not your ego. It's not the I you think of every day. The self is the entirety of you, your conscious mind, yes, but also that vast, deep ocean of the unconscious. It's the true center of your personality, and the ultimate goal of psychological development is to get in touch with it. And here's the brilliant part. The alchemists, centuries ago, they were already there. They didn't have our psychological language, but their symbols were pointing to the very same thing. They called Mercurius the microcosm, a little universe in himself, precisely because he contained everything, good and evil, spirit and matter, male and female. He was their symbol for the total whole human being. Okay, but think about this. If Mercurius represents the whole self, both the light and the dark parts, that creates a really fascinating tension with another major symbol in Western culture, a symbol that represents only the light. And this table just lays it out perfectly. The figure of Christ, as defined by religious dogma, represents a conscious ideal, absolute purity, goodness, and unity. He's the symbol of the light. Mercurius, on the other hand, is ambiguous, messy, and rooted in nature. He represents the unconscious reality, all the parts of ourselves, good and bad, that didn't fit into that perfect conscious ideal. He's the stuff that got left out. And this brings us to the final and maybe most important point. What happens to us psychologically when we try to focus only on the light, when we try to live up to a perfect ideal and pretend the darkness of our own nature doesn't exist? Well, there's a fundamental law of the psyche, and it's called compensation. The more one-sided you become in your conscious mind, say by trying to be only good, the more the opposite qualities build up power in your unconscious. You don't get rid of the darkness by ignoring it. You just push it down, where it forms a shadow. And the brighter you make the light, the darker and sharper that shadow becomes. The poet Hölderlin captured this idea perfectly. The heavenly, our highest ideals, they demand a sacrifice. But the sacrifice isn't to cut parts of ourselves off. The sacrifice is acknowledging the whole picture, integrating even the parts we don't like. Because if you withhold that, if you refuse to look at your own shadow, it never has that led to good. And that brings us right back to the beginning, to that boy and the bottle. He had to find that spirit, let it out, and contend with it to get the reward. But in our modern world, a world so brightly lit by reason and science, have we just decided to leave that spirit sealed up in the bottle? And so the question for us is, what happens to the power, the danger, and the immense transformative potential of the spirit we keep sealed away in the darkness of our own unconscious?